This is the story of a boy named Zed Arahant, an arena fighter on Earth, who has won various titles and championships and became the best in the world. But soon, he became bored since there were no longer any worthy opponents. So, he started playing games to fill that empty void in him, and he ended up conquering the game, becoming a champion of 2 worlds. Just like that, a strange phenomenon occurred, and the next thing was finding himself in the game as the son of the Arahant family, one of the top magic families in the world. But he was discarded, abandoned, and sent to prison due to being incapable of using mana. If you like the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts about this recap. Let's go back 1,000 years ago during the Great Demon War, an era of chaos and doom. One day, suddenly, demon beasts crossed the front line and attacked humans, causing countless deaths and bloodshed, both races unyielding. Humans fought back for their survival, so the endless, grueling war continued. The land was stained with blood, and humans were gradually pushed back by the waves of demon beasts. But before things could end for humans, a magician appeared. The magician rode a black dragon across the battlefield, defeating the demon beasts. The demon beasts trembled in fear at his overwhelming presence, and humans praised their hero. However, the magician met a mysterious death simultaneously with the victory in the Great Demon War. Now somewhere in the cosmos, there's a will looking for the chosen one who is obsessed with strength, one who does not succumb to the temptation of corruption. The story begins on Earth, in a bus, where people were watching an arena match. Today's main event, which is the World Champion's 17th title defense, will begin soon. The crowd cheered with excitement as the commentator announced that today's challenger, who's wearing blue in the corner of the ring, is Patrick. But the crowd booed him, saying he should be killed. Now, the champion who'd be defending his title, with a total of 37 fights and 37 wins, 100% KO rate, the world champion, Kim Jin-ho. He pulled off his red cape with an unyielding expression. The commentator questioned how today's match would unfold, noting how Kim Jin-ho hasn't been using his legs in recent matches. It seems like Patrick suspected a leg injury in his interview, so he'll probably try to exploit the weakness today. The commentators continued, noting that Kim Jin-ho is also over 40 years old. If the leg injury is real, they might see a new champion today. The referee then announced the beginning of the match. The two took a defensive stance. Patrick could feel the incredible pressure from Kim Jin-ho. Of course, he expected such pressure, but he knew he'd win if he could just grab Kim Jin-ho's injured leg. So, he immediately went for a tackle. In his mind, he called Kim Jin-ho arrogant for coming to face him with an injured leg, determined to make sure Kim Jin-ho never used his leg again. But as he was under the illusion that he had Kim Jin-ho under his grasp, bang, Kim Jin-ho took him down with his picture-perfect spinning kick. Patrick was unable to get up, and it was a shocking first-round KO. Kim Jin-ho, unimpressed, commented that such easy victories were the reason why he didn't use his legs, not because he was injured. Hours later, Kim Jin-ho got dressed and left the changing room. On his way out, his coach asked where he was going, and told him to stay for the press conference. But Kim Jin-ho told him to handle it himself. His coach told him to stay at least today because of his fans, but Kim Jin-ho was uninterested. He put on his hood and told his coach to contact him when the next fight was scheduled. The coach, stressed, told him to at least take the car since the weather was bad. But Kim Jin-ho found the situation to be good, and since there would be terrible traffic, he decided to run. He then shut the door. The coach worriedly opened the door, calling Kim Jin-ho a fool, since his house was 30 kilometers from there. But the interviewers were already in front of him. Seeing the coach, they began asking various questions. When is Kim Jin-ho going to the press conference? Was the leg injury rumor a planned fake? The coach didn't reply for a moment. He knew how Kim Jin-ho felt. Countless victories without losing a single fight. He felt sorry for Kim Jin-ho. Even he had to admit that there probably wouldn't be any worthy opponents left to entertain him. He then told the interviewers that they shouldn't believe such rumors because Kim Jin-ho just gave himself a handicap. After running 30 kilometers in the rain to his house, Kim Jin-ho arrived at his apartment drenched and with the aid of an elevator. At his door entrance were gifts, probably from fans. His house was beautiful and luxurious. He came out from the shower and immediately sat in his gaming chair, excited to play a game called Last Saber. It's a console PC game, known for its extreme difficulty that even Korean users gave up on. But Kim Jin-ho, for the past 10 years, had played every single day without missing once. Constant training and relentless honing, fighting stronger opponents, this was his life's goal. But in reality, that had faded long ago. Though he knew he wouldn't find stronger opponents in reality, in the game, he could feel it again. The feeling of being a challenger. Now he was facing the Demon Lord Izar. They fought until the Demon Lord's health was almost completely drained. Seeing this, he knew he might actually beat the Demon Lord. He urged Izar to put up more of a fight, disappointed that the Demon Lord couldn't dodge such an attack. They exchanged multiple blows, but he had no idea why the patterns were so simple today, and why his attacks were landing so well. He activated a spell with the image of a wolf and then struck the Demon King. Kim Jin-ho started the challenge, wanting to win, but now, in an ironic situation of fearing victory, he was cheering the Demon King with his mouth, telling him to hang in there while executing brilliant controls with his hands. But finally, he defeated the Demon Lord Izar, and Kim Jin-ho became a champion of 2 worlds. He threw his mouse at his PC, which broke the screen. He laid back, wondering who to fight now, or maybe he should fight a bear. During his moment of lamenting, the sky roared, thunder rumbled, and then struck through his window. For a moment, everything went dark. He felt dizzy, and his whole body felt so hot. He heard a voice, someone calling him number 218. He opened his eyes and it was raining. He wondered when he had come outside. He heard voices saying they should break out and escape together. He opened his eyes slightly, hearing screams everywhere. Someone placed his hands on his shoulder and told Kim Jin-ho that he had been calling him all day. What was he doing? He told him they didn't have time to stand around. They needed to get out of there right now. Kim Jin-ho asked the guy who he was. He saw the number 172 on the guy's clothes. He questioned where they were. In front of him were people running toward the gate, and above it was a flag. He didn't know what was happening. but he noticed the symbol on the flag. He wondered where he had seen the symbol before. The guy told Kim Jin-ho to wake up. Did he plan to rot there forever? This might be their last chance to escape this wretched carry-on. Upon hearing carry-on, he was surprised and questioned if this place was really carry-on. The guy told Kim Jin-ho there's no time to dawdle, then grabbed him by the collar and told him they should move now. Kim Jin-ho stood surprised. He couldn't believe his eyes and he wondered if he's dreaming. But seeing the people running, the screams and thunder rumbling, the echoes as they tried pulling the gate, from such sensations, he knew there's no way this is a dream. If that's the case, he wondered if he had perhaps somehow entered the game he was playing. He entered as a prisoner, no less. He started running while being dragged by the guy. Everything going on seems like a mystery to him, but first, he decided to get out of here. He stopped, then told the guy to wait a second. The guy called him a lunatic and told him to stop messing around. But Kim Jin-ho told him what's going on seemed strange because if this is truly carry-on, such an escape shouldn't be happening, it's way too unreal. The guy told him it's because Director Clark isn't here, he rushed out earlier, that's why now's their chance. So he told Kim Jin-ho to get a grip and hurry. Kim Jin-ho grabbed the guy by his neck collar and turned back to the prison. The guy screamed, called Kim Jin-ho a maniac, and asked, what is he doing? While running back, Jin-ho said to himself that if truly Director Clark isn't around, then the whole situation makes sense. But still, his MC's instincts are screaming at him. He should not, under any circumstances, step beyond the gate. The guy struggled for Jin-ho to leave him. At the same time, the gate opened. The prisoners were happy since they're now free, so they all charged out, filled with hope of escaping the damned place. The guy told Jin-ho to leave him since he had to get out too. Those at the gate smiled and laughed with joy, but that joy became a nightmare. One of their hands was cut off by Director Clark. With a grin, he told his men to kill all those pathetic worms. As the guy struggled, Jin-ho told him it's a trap so he should shut up and run. The massacre at the gate began. Other escapees turned back to go back to the prison, running for their lives. And so things finally calmed down. As the rain fell, the ground was filled with blood and corpses. Clark then told his men to round up the remaining escapees. Now, the remaining prisoners were brought out to a corner and were told to stand up straight and don't move. As the blonde-haired guy stood, he saw the corpses on the ground. He couldn't hold in his disgust, so he ended up throwing up. One of the guards approached him, grabbed his head and kicked his leg while telling him not to move, just like he said earlier. He then told them all that from now on, anyone who moves will be cut down on the spot. Kim Jin-ho stood, said to himself that they're really ruthless even towards children. At this rate, another massacre could break out at any moment. If that happens, he'll have no choice but to fight. Clark approached Jin-ho and told him that it looks like he got lucky, or rather, he was just too cowardly to even run away. Such is expected since all them mages are nothing but cowards, so calling them his rivals is an insult. He grinned, his face close to Jin-ho's face, called him Arahan, and told Jin-ho he'd regret surviving today, so he'll be looking forward to it. He then left. Jin-ho stood, looking at his reflection on the water on the ground. He was surprised that Clark just called him Arahan. 1 week into Jin-ho's life at the labor camp, he dropped a stone on a pile of stones. There's only one daily routine at the camp, which was stacking stone towers, a meaningless task designed solely to torment the prisoners. After spending a few days in his current body, Jin-ho had discovered a few things. First, his body is far too fragile. Just leaving a single stone leaves him grasping for breath. His age is roughly 15. Another thing is that he's a magic user. He tried secretly casting a spell at night, but it was a complete failure. Jin-ho found the situation not to make sense for an Arahan not being able to use magic. The Arahan family is one of the greatest mage bloodlines, so he found it unsettling for him to be incapable of using magic. He wondered if that's the reason why he was discarded at the camp, but knowing the Arahan family, such a thing doesn't surprise him in the least. The guard interrupted his thoughts. He told Jin-ho to now move the stone tower to the other side, while sitting with his legs crossed and a sword in his hand. As Jin-ho raised his stone, in front of him was a system panel. He was informed that the synchronization is in progress, and due to excessive data, synchronization is delayed, currently at 78% progress. At this rate, he wondered when will it ever synchronize finish. Hours later, inside the camp cafeteria, in front of Jin-ho was a bread and a godforsaken soup. He exhaled as he sat. He had been keeping up with exercise since arriving in this world, but with such meals, he had no idea if he can continue the exercise. The guy called Jin-ho number 218. He asked Jin-ho if he's not eating his bread again today. Seeing the guy, Jin-ho gave him his bread. The guy took it and thanked him. As he ate, Jin-ho said to himself that while the other prisoners go out of their way to avoid him, the guy does the opposite. The Arahan family is an unrivaled lineage of mages. There's a certain rumor about Arahan's signature crimson eyes, that their red eyes are a curse brought upon them for slaughtering too many people, and that anyone who locked eyes with them is doomed to die. The guy is the same age as Jin-ho, and they share a room. He had no memories from before possessing his body, so he wondered why such a young guy was locked in carry-on prison. The guy told Jin-ho he should be careful from now on since other inmates are angry that the workload has increased because of him. He then told Jin-ho to take things easy. Why is he putting in so much effort moving those stones in the first place? Jin-ho had no idea they weren't happy with him. That explains the murderous glare he had been getting lately. The guy told him to watch out especially for number 589, the leader of the prisoners. He has a notorious reputation in the arena. Rumor has it he's here for murder. If that's the case, Jin-ho asked the guy, wouldn't he be in trouble for hanging out with him? The guy knew, but they've known each other for a while, so he can't just ignore it. Jin-ho deemed the guy's reason to be understanding. He then stood up. He told the guy he's in the way, so he should go somewhere else for now. The guy had no idea what Jin-ho was talking about all of a sudden. Kim Jin-ho told him it looks like the situation he's worried about is about to unfold. The guy turned around and was shocked to see number 589, together with his men. 589 told Jinho that he heard he's the reason why their workload has increased. Jinho confidently asked what does that have to do with him. He was just using it as a light exercise. But before he could finish his sentence, the big guy sent a punch at him, the shockwave intense. 172 worriedly asked Jinho if he's okay. To the big guy's surprise, Jinho was unarmed. He grabbed his collar, and with a grin, he slammed the guy's jaw with his knee, which shocked everyone. But to Jinho's surprise, the guy came out unscathed. With a grin, he asked Jinho if that was a kick. Jinho was surprised that the guy didn't even flinch. He wondered just how weak his body was. 589 grabbed Jinho by his collar and shot him to the wall, then told Jinho there's no escape for him since he's marked for death. Jinho sat. The system then appeared in front of him, notifying him that his synchronization is complete. Jinho grinned as energy started coursing through his body. He clenched his fist, his whole body engulfed in energy. He then prepared for round 2 of their fight, took his defensive stance, ready to fight 589, and told him to come. 589 laughed, clenched his fist, and told Jinho that a disgrace like him, cast aside by his own kin, had no right to act so high and mighty. Jinho told him to shut up, or was he afraid? 589 agreed to make the first move if that's what Jinho wanted, so he charged to attack with the determination to kill. Jinho aimed for the guy's leg, but to his surprise, the guy caught the kick and remarked, "A rat should know its place." Bang! Jinho kicked him in the neck with the leg the guy grabbed, then softly landed on the ground. From below, he immediately launched an upper kick directly to the guy's jaw, the force intense. The guy coughed out blood, unconscious, but Jinho struck him in the face again with his leg. The guy fell down unconscious and defeated. Jinho commented, saying, "This is exactly why I didn't want to use my legs." 589's underlings angrily charged to kill Jinho, determined to make sure he died screaming. Jinho walked toward 589, then stepped on him and grabbed his hand. He told the angry mobs not to move. If they took another step, they'd be feeding the guy for life, so they should go call the guards if they didn't want that to happen. The mobs didn't move, prompting Jinho to press harder. He told them not to think he was bluffing, or should he snap off an arm to prove it, if they were doubting him. One of them immediately ran out to call the guards, while the rest went to carry their leader. Sometime later, 172 excitedly asked Jinho when he learned to fight. It was really incredible, but he paused, and then asked Jinho if he had always been this tall. He thought they were both the same height. Jinho sat down and told him he should try lifting stones too, prompting 172 to ask if he got taller by lifting stones. Jinho said to himself that, as expected, synchronization turned his real-world stats into game stats. Though compared to his real body, his current body was still at a child's level, but that wasn't the real priority. He checked his status window. It was displayed that his name was Zed Arahan, so from now on, we would be calling him Zed instead of Jinho. At the moment, he had 5 traits, which included Indomitable against poison, Immortal Gambler, Tenacious Challenger, Champion Soul, and Archmage's Blessing, all with rank S. As for his stats, due to growth suppression, penalties were applied to his stats, which reduced all his 100 stats by half: agility, strength, stamina, except for perception, which was still at 100, and mana, which was at 0. He had been dying to check his stats since earlier, but what caught his attention was his 0 mana. He was surprised when he saw it. He never expected it to be real. He was disappointed because he was supposed to be a mage as an Arahan, yet his mana was at 0. He never expected the system to stick him with such garbage stats and make him possess such a garbage body. He laughed as he went through his screen, though 172 couldn't see the screen. Hours later, Zed lay on the bed, thinking to himself that he couldn't believe such a trash character existed. No wonder his family abandoned him. But first, he decided to calm down and assess the situation. His eyes were on the window. At least his physical stats and senses were maxed at 100, which was considered a small blessing. He also saw the suppression blessing, which he didn't consider bad, since there was no way he could fully utilize 100 stats in such a scrawny body anyway, and the penalty could likely be overcome through training. But his diet was too poor. He never expected there to be a lot of traits he'd never seen before. Every single one of them was S rank. The only ones he recognized from the game were Poison Immunity and Immortal Gambler. If not for the 0 mana, his body would be a ridiculously overpowered character, which was quite cruel. He stood, not thinking about it anymore since he'd figure out the rest in time. And it's not like there was no way to fix his mana issues. He then heard a voice from the guard outside, telling those whose names were called to step outside, and so their names were called one after the other. Those called walked out with their hands cuffed. Zed asked who they were. 172 told him they were death row inmate, getting their final meal. Before the execution, they got to eat what they wanted. Hearing this, Zed immediately thought of an idea. He then asked 172 what his name was. 172 was surprised by the question since they only went by numbers, so he had gotten used to it. He told Zed his name was Rui. He had no family since he was a street rat. He then asked Zed about his name. Zed replied with a grin, Zed Arahan. He then asked Rui if he wanted to get out of here. Rui replied, "Of course. I'm not planning to stay here long since I have a reason I must leave." Zed asked how he planned to escape then. Rui thought for a moment, then told Zed the only way was the front gate, and Clark held the key. Zed commented, "So we have to take Clark down and steal it." Rui asked Zed if he was insane since the warden was a retired 5th Circle knight. Warden Clark was the kind of knight who despised mages. In the last Savior War, knights and mages were mortal enemies. Zed wondered if they could even win against Clark, who was a 5th rank knight, but there was no other way. Rui told him he'd steal the key. He told Zed he was quite confident about it, since rats learned to pickpocket before they could even walk. But the problem was that the warden was always surrounded. Hearing that the warden never had an opening, Zed grinned as he was starting to form a plan. Morning arrived, and the guard told them work began now. By the order of the warden, today's workload was doubled, so they should stop dawdling and start running. The inmates were surprised by the sudden announcement. They told the guard to give them a break, or at least give them work that was actually possible. The guard asked if they were questioning the warden's order. One of them tried to revolt, but the guard pointed his sword at his neck, then told the guy that he was just relaying the warden's instructions. If they had complaints, they should take it up with him. The guy, scared, told the guard that the nonsense task was too much. Why were they doing this? The guard looked at Zed, then asked if they still didn't get whose fault it was. The inmates immediately turned their attention to Zed, while the guard commented he'd be stepping out for a smoke. Rui told Zed the situation was getting bad, but Zed told him to keep his distance. He said to himself that the bastard Clark was stirring up a riot. Since Clark couldn't attack Zed outright, he was using the prisoners to do it. Zed wondered if yesterday's attack was also caused by Clark. What a disappointment, and a disgrace to his knightly honor. Zed ran back, realizing the guards were in cahoots with the inmates, so he refused to let such action slide like he did yesterday, while hoping Zed wouldn't die. One of the inmates commented that they needed to kill the bastard, or they were the ones who were going to die. Zed told them it wasn't that he didn't understand their position, they probably had no choice. The inmates laughed. One of them asked Aiden if he was acting high and mighty because he was an Arahan. They charged to kill Zed, saying a half-wit like him shouldn't be acting tough. Bang! The first guy was taken down with a knee strike from Zed and sent flying. Zed told them he couldn't just stand there and die, and since he was looking for a way to vent his frustration, their attacks would be a better option. An inmate questioned if the lunatic Zed was desperate to die. Zed stood his ground, grinning. He told them all to attack at once. Furious, they charged at Zed. Zed took one down with a kick to the face. He used to imagine something like this inside the octagon. Instead of fighting one by one, he wished they'd all come at him at once, just so he could fight even more opponents. A punch was sent at him from behind, but he reacted fast and gave the guy an elbow uppercut. Within seconds, he took down multiple inmates. Rui was watching the fight. He couldn't believe his eyes. Then from behind him came number 589. He told Rui to come with him for a moment. Zed was taking them all down easily. Now they brought out knives out of the blue and decided to rush him all at once. But Zed wasn't scared, rather. He was enjoying the fight, the thrill of dodging an attack, the electrifying sensation of landing a clean hit. It was the feeling that got him addicted to martial arts. As he fought them, he craved for more thrill. But his moment was interrupted when a guy told him he should stop struggling and die quietly since his friend was being held captive by their boss. Zed grinned. They dared threaten him. He then told those pieces of trash that they just made a huge mistake. Rui struggled as the guy held him tightly. With a knife in his hand, the guy told Zed to feel honored that he's facing him. Someone like him who's nothing less than a second circle knight. A mere arahant without mana, so the only thing waiting for him is death. He then jumped at Zed to attack, but Zed dodged it. The guy was surprised. He wondered if Zed just vanished all of a sudden, not knowing where he escaped to, but to his surprise, Zed had already taken down their boss and freed Rui. Surprised, the guy asked Zed what he had just done, since it's known that he can't use magic. Zed told him it wasn't magic, and then performed a technique, arriving in front of the guy and kicking him straight in the neck, knocking him down. Now behind him was Clark and some guards. Clark told Zed to explain himself, but Rui told Clark that Zed is the victim. Those guys attacked him first and tried to kill him, so knocking them down was self-defense. Clark looked at them sternly. In his thoughts, he called them idiots. He then asked Zed if he unlocked his mana. Zed replied, "Who knows?" The rude reply immediately got Clark angry, which made him release an overwhelming pressure. The pressure pressed everyone down to their knees, some flat on the ground, struggling to breathe due to the pressure. Zed's body was surrounded with an invisible circle. He realized that the director's pressure wasn't affecting him since a civilian wouldn't be able to withstand the presence of a fifth circle knight. He had no idea how it was possible. He then got a message that his S-rank trait, Noble of Soul Champion, resists the suppression. He was surprised to see a new trait. He grinned slightly, since the trait is resistant to mental attacks, which made it a completely overwhelming ability. Well, considering that he reached the top in his world, there's no reason for a fifth circle knight to intimidate him, so the game knows what it's doing. Clark was surprised to see Zed standing there like the pressure was nothing, without even releasing mana, a nobody like him. He inhaled deeply, then increased the pressure. The pressure shattered the ground, leaving the inmates struggling for their lives, but Zed was unharmed since his ability was resisting the suppression, which made him grin slightly with satisfaction at the skill's usefulness. Clark had no idea what was happening. The guard told him he should please stop since they were being affected by the pressure, so he retracted his energy. Zed smirked, saying to himself that it's a good thing it ended like this, because it would have been a disaster if Clark had angered him and drawn his sword. Clark looked at him with hidden anger in his eyes, then left, telling them all to go back to work. But Zed told him to wait. He had something to tell him. He told Clark that he's sick of stacking stones and always being on guard, waiting for the prisoners to attack him, so he has decided to let himself die. Rui asked Zed what he meant by that. Zed replied with a grin, saying he chose to be a death row inmate. Clark told him he wouldn't tolerate him, even if it's a momentary whim. Zed asked Clark if he's afraid to take it back or does he want to record it in a crystal sphere. Clark grinned and told Zed there's no better proof than that. He then told the jailer to quickly bring a crystal. Zed was amazed to see them excited about him wanting to die. He cursed and added that he'd heard before the last meal. One can ask for anything they want, so he'll also decide his menu now. He then told Clark that he wanted his last meal to be Bertie beefsteak, and he should make sure there's enough to eat until he bursts. Hearing his request, everyone's eyes widened in shock. The jailer told him he's insane. Does he even know how much Bertie beef costs to give to a death row inmate? Zed knew about the Bertie beef. It comes from free-range cattle raised in the Bertie Plains, located in the southern part of the empire. It is the highest quality beef. In Last Saber, it is one of the most exclusive dishes. It is said to be so delicious that it restores lost energy. Some in-game descriptions even mention characters feeling like they could win their next battle after eating it. He had an important fight coming up, so he might as well take advantage while he can. Besides, he had always wanted to see if it's really as good as they say. Zed told Clark that birdie beef in exchange for his life should be a fair deal, and just so he's clear, he only accepts S-grade quality beef, and he'll cancel the whole deal if he tries to cheat. Rui was surprised. Zed then told Clark that Rui is coming with him, so he should prepare enough food for two. Rui had no idea why his name was being involved. Clark agreed, then told his men to get the birdie beef, which surprised the guards. Zed told the guards to come on. They're about to execute an errant, so the birdie beef is the least they can do for him. Rui, surprised, asked if his opinion doesn't matter. They just decided his death like that? Sometime later, in the cell, Zed said to himself that birdie beef is so rare that acquiring it takes at least a week. During the wait, he won't have to go out and work. While receiving food from the guards, he devoted himself entirely to training. Rui asked Zed that he doesn't get why he keeps working out if he's going to die soon, but Zed didn't reply, focused on his exercise. Zed, while sweating, said to himself that Last Saber has a special system. That is, if a stat reaches its maximum value, which is 100%, the experience gain transfers to another stat. And since all his stats are maxed out except for mana, all the experience he earns has no choice but to increase only mana. The guard then called them both to step out. Zed smiled, since the time for his mission had finally come, while Rui was worried since his life was ending too. Now, in front of them was the birdie beef. Rui took a bite, and he was so happy. He commented, saying he had never tasted anything this delicious in his entire life. Zed told him not to forget that all the beef is thanks to him. By the way, Zed said to himself that beyond the taste, the effect was still incredible. His penalties were partially reduced, and he felt like all the experience that had been blocked until now was suddenly flowing in. Now that the old objective was complete, he decided to move on to the next. In Clark's office, the guard told Clark that the banquet had begun. Clark told him, "Good. Don't let anyone get close." Then said to himself with a worried expression, "What the hell happened that day?" It didn't seem like Zed was resisting by force. Rather, it was as if it didn't affect him at all. Even though he has retired, he's still a fifth circle knight. So he deemed it impossible for a young mage, who hasn't even unlocked his mana, to withstand his aura. He knew that something wasn't right that day, so he decided to confirm it properly this time, and repay back tenfold the humiliation he suffered. Now, back to the feast room. The two finished all the beef. Rui, with his big stomach, happily said, "Now I can die without regrets." But Zed told him he can't die just yet. Zed could feel his body energy recovering with a full stomach. He could punch a bag all day. He really wanted to test the strength as soon as possible. The door opened, and the person who came in was Clark. Zed told him, "It's too bad you came late since I already ate everything." Clark looked at Zed emotionlessly. He deemed Zed to be an arrogant fool, who thinks too highly of himself because of his lineage. He stretched out his hand with the bracelet on his wrist, and held Zed's shoulder. First, he decided to smash Zed's unlucky face until he writhed in pain. While looking at Zed, the warden said to himself that the Arahants are a top-tier magical family. Even if he got a little information, it would be a big profit for him. He said that he might even be able to get out of this backwater depending on the quality of the information he got from Zed. Just then, he unleashed his magical bracelet, using it to enhance his power in order to subdue him. But Zed stood unfazed, looking at it like it was some clown show in a circus. Seeing the tools on the warden, Zed said to himself, "Oh, so this guy is using a magical tool this time around." But he was like, "Alright, let's see how this will work out." And with a loud bang, the warden unleashed his power to 60%, using it to attack Zed. With a smile, he asked, "How is it? Do you feel the power?" He said that no matter what Zed did this time, he would take him down. But Zed stood unfazed, looking at the man like it was some kid's show. He said that he will let the man do his worst. After channeling for a while, the warden was surprised. He wondered what the hell is going on. Why is Zed not budging? Why does the spell not affect him? Meanwhile, Rui was affected by the attack because it was so powerful, suppressing him to the ground. Finally, Rui fell, losing consciousness. But Zed was still unfazed, and the attack felt like nothing to him. The warden became angry and called him a filthy bag, but Zed told him, "Why don't you just stop already? Is there a need for you to go this far?" Now the warden decided to use his power at full force, channeling it to 100% and clamping onto Zed's shoulders in an attempt to weaken him further. And just as Zed smiled, he called the warden weak. Finally, when he couldn't take the warden's weakness any longer, Zed smacked his hand away from his shoulder and said, "Didn't I tell you to stop? If you want to kill me, do it properly with a legal execution. Don't act like a madman." Upon hearing this, the warden was shocked and began sweating. What the hell is going on? He even used a magic tool, but how? If his magic didn't affect Zed at all, it meant that Zed was at least one cycle higher than him. So he wondered if Zed was a 6-cycle mage. But that can't be. That's impossible. Suddenly, as he looked into Zed's eyes, he wondered if Zed was even far stronger than that. Or maybe this was the power of the Arahant bloodline. The warden ascertained that the 5th cycle was a realm he had reached through a lifetime of dedication, and yet he couldn't even make this young mage kneel. Since he couldn't win this fight, he decided to retreat before losing his honor any further. So he cooled down the magical tool he wore on his hand. After switching it off, Zed then told him, "Are you done digging your own grave?" The warden couldn't say a word. He was silent. With a sharp turn, he told Zed that the execution would be carried out tomorrow morning. Even the great Arahant can't ignore the laws set by His Majesty, the Emperor. Some while later, in the warden's office, the warden looked exhausted as he wrote the information he had gathered in his journal. He said to himself that he couldn't find out much, but this information might be useful for the execution. So he decided to record today's events, but he looked so tired because he had fully opened his mana and used a magical tool. Still, he needed to finish these reports for future purposes. Meanwhile, back in Zed's room, Rui stood there as he slept. He was sweating due to the lingering effects of the warden's magic. Zed walked up to him and asked, "Are you awake? How are you feeling?" Rui said he felt nauseous, like he was going to throw up. Zed smiled and said, "But he actually have good manual dexterity to be able to withstand the attack of the warden." Rui replied, "Of course." He then showed Zed the key he had snatched through the chaos and asked, "How are my skills?" Seeing this, Zed was surprised and remarked, "Wow, he really did a good job stealing the key during that time the warden was attacking." Zed then said to himself that it must have been quite dangerous for any ordinary person to steal a key from the warden. But this guy is quite strong. However, it was actually only possible because the warden was focused on Zed. Rui asked if Zed was really okay. Zed replied, "Yeah, he's fine. The warden's attack didn't do much damage to him and there's no problem." But with a serious face, Rui said, "That's strange. There must be something he don't know about Zed. How could he withstand that attack and still be fine?" But Zed told Rui to try lifting more stones if he wanted to be as strong as that. Now, Zed decided to check if his stats had increased, or if there were any improvements. So he quickly called on his status. The system displayed his information and traits. He was immune to all poison and the rest, but in his stats, there were penalties due to stunted growth. His strength, originally 100, was reduced by 50%, same for his agility and endurance. However, his senses were still at 100%, but his strength, agility, and endurance had increased by 10. This is a great achievement, as he ate the vertigrade beef, which tasted great and were nutritious. And, of course, he had also been working out steadily. Now, his body felt different compared to before when the penalty was still fully attached to him. Zed said that he wanted to remove all penalties quickly, but it would be difficult. So now, he just had to keep on doing what he was doing, and hopefully, he would finally remove all penalties. As he was sitting down, he told Ryu that they would escape this prison tonight. So they should go once he was fully recovered. Ryu said, "Shouldn't they leave right now? The warden will notice soon." But Zed told him not to worry about it since the warden should have passed out by now. Ryu was surprised and asked him, "How can you be so sure?" Zed replied, "Of course, he knows. That bracelet the warden was wearing, it's just a common item. Although he can't remember its name, it's an item that amplifies magic temporarily while significantly accumulating fatigue. So he believed the warden must have passed out somewhere." And just as he said this, the warden had really passed out in his office due to fatigue from using too much of his power and mana. Zed said that the warden came to the hall with a key, and also used an unexpected magic tool. Because of that, the escape plan has become much easier. Some while later, Zed told Ryu that they should get going. As they were about to break through the prison room door, Ryu asked Zed if it is really safe. But Zed told him to stay behind if he is that scared. Ryu snapped and said, "What? You are my lifeline, I have to stick with you." Ryu then told Zed that out of all the keys they stole, there was no key for their room. But Zed told him not to worry. Just step back for a bit. And with a loud bang, Zed kicked the room door open, shattering it to pieces. Seeing this, Ryu was surprised and asked, "What was that monstrous strength just now? Is Zed really a mage?" Suddenly, Zed told him to keep quiet for a while. The guards were coming. Just then the guards yelled, "What was that noise?" "Number 218. What are you doing outside?" Zed asked them, "What does it look like he's doing?" Then it dawned on the guards that they were escaping. The guards quickly yelled, "Report to the warden immediately." Zed and Ryu began running in order to escape. As they were running, they got closer to the main gates. And Ryu quickly told Zed, "In front of us, the front gate is blocked." Ahead of them, there were about 7 guards standing with their swords, ready to stop them from escaping. The leader of the guards yelled, "Hold off the prisoners here until the warden arrives." And they all replied, "Yes, sir." As they were both running, Zed told Ryu, "Don't stop, keep running." And in an instant, he sprinted ahead in order to take down the guards. The first guard confronted Zed in an attempt to stop him, but Zed quickly dodged and gave him a beating of first come, first served. Zed furiously used his palm to smash the guard's face and threw the guard away, making him crash into the rest of the guards. The head of the guards was surprised, seeing how Zed flung an elderly guy like that. Just as he was thinking nothing but thoughts, Zed was already coming with another attack. He used his hand to choke the guard on his neck, and the guard began coughing out blood. As he was done with this guy, Zed sprinted to the other guards. As if that was not enough, Zed didn't even pity the first guy he had attacked. He kicked the guy again, hitting him in the face and using him as a medium to jump to the other guards. Just then, the rest of the guards were about to attack him, but they didn't even know where to strike because Zed was so fast. In an instant, he gave another guy a kick with his back leg like Jet Li. As Zed lost balance, one of the guards was about to stab him with a sword, but Zed quickly dodged it and regained his balance. Then he kicked the guy in the face, slamming him to the ground. Seeing the fight, Ryu was in shock. This is insane. Who the hell is Zed for him to be taking down the guards with so much ease? And just like that, Zed finally took down all the guards, and they escaped the prison. Sometime later, after the warden had woken up from his long slumber in Wonderland, he appeared at the scene and was stunned by what he saw. His guards were lying on the ground, some unconscious and others writhing in pain. The head guard stammered, "Warden, we are sorry. Inmate 218 has escaped." Upon hearing this, the warden became furious, his face contorted with rage. He yelled that they should all catch the escaped prisoner immediately. In another scene, near the Mota village beside the detention center, Zed and Ryu hid in some confinement. After a while, Ryu peeped through the cracks. After scanning the area, he told Zed, I think we've completely lost the guards chasing after us. Zed breathed a sigh of relief, then asked, where are we right now? Ryu explained that they're in a small town called Mota. It's the only village near the detention center. Zed was like, huh. Wouldn't the guards come here first? Ryu replied, yeah, he knows that, but they have no choice. Other cities are too far for them to escape to right now. He began searching through the dirt and added, if they blend in with the people of this village, they'll be safe. Zed sighed. All right, he guessed they'll have to go with Rui's plan. But what is he looking for? Ryu handed him a cloth. This will do. Put it on. Zed frowned. Huh? Of all things to wear, why rags? Ryu explained that disguising as beggars is the safest way. There are plenty of beggars in this village, so it'll be better. After putting on the clothes, Ryu said that he'll go get some supplies. He told Zed to stay here and keep quiet. Zed asked how will he get supplies without money. Ryu smirked. Why would he need money when he have his hands? Zed thought to himself, this kid has a different way of thinking. He's really surprising. After that, Ryu said that he'll be back soon. Don't go anywhere. You're my lifeline. An hour later, Ryu returned saying that he's back. Zed then asked him, what did you bring? But Ryu showed him color lenses. Zed raised a brow. Color lenses? What for? Ryu explained. Red eyes are the symbol of Arahant, so Zed need to be careful since he's from an Arahant lineage. Here in the south, blue lenses are the most popular because it's the territory of the Bahal family. Among the wannabe nobles, eye color is like an accessory. Hearing this, Zed thought to himself, Bahal. That's a very familiar name to him. His main character was Taurus Bahal, the one he played until the final ending. He had used Arahant for mages and Bahal for swordsmen. Just as their worldviews opposed each other, their eye colors were also opposites. Just then, Ryu thanked Zed for looking out for him, but Zed replied, no problem. Ryu then said that he saw a place on his way back. They should rest there for a bit. They arrived at an old wooden apartment deep in the forest. It was once a stable where cows and animals were kept, but right now, it was empty. As both of them lay on the platform, Zed thought to himself, how did his life end up like this? First he woke up in a game as a prisoner, and now he's hiding in a stable to sleep. Well, at least it's interesting. But why does Ryu keep sticking with someone like him? He was concerned, recalling when Rui had said, you are my lifeline. It was even more confusing because Ryu knew that Clark was targeting Zed, making it dangerous to stay with him. He still don't know anything about Rui. All Zed knows is that he's a pickpocket from the streets. For now, he need his help, so they should stick together. But can he really trust this boy? The next morning, after the third crow of the rooster, though I wasn't counting, but the sun was already out. As Zed woke up, he groaned, damn it. It was too dark last night, but did he really sleep in a place like this? What the hell? Ryu stretched and smirked. As a noble, I guess this place is uncomfortable for you, huh? Zed scoffed. Of course, who would like a place like this? Ryu said, well, nobody loves a place like this, but everyone compromises based on their circumstances. Zed sighed. This won't do. He need to earn some money, they have to eat at least. Ryu tilted his head. How will he make money? It's hard enough just avoiding the guards from the prison. How about he learn pickpocketing this time? Zed immediately declined. Forget pickpocketing, they should find that place he is talking about. Rui asked him where is it, and where are they heading now? Zed replied, to the arena. In another scene at the underground fight arena, two muscular men were fighting while the crowd watched. One dark-skinned man clashed heads with another, but due to their size, such a blow wouldn't cause much damage. Zed and Ryu had already arrived at the arena. Zed stood with a smirk, while Ryu looked around nervously. As Rui looked around the whole arena, he saw people rejoicing as they watched the brutal fights. He was trembling, so he said that they came to the wrong place. But Zed said no, they were exactly where they needed to be. Just then the dark guy bit the other guy on the arm. Even though this was just a fist fight, I guess he was trying to use all he could to win. But the other guy wasn't having any of it. He gave the guy a punch to reset his brain immediately. However, the guy stood his ground, and they kept on fighting. Suddenly the white guy sprinted and gave him a jaw-cracking punch to his ribs, shattering his 6 meridians in an instant. Seeing this, the audience yelled, fight properly, challenger. I bet everything on you. One shouted. Another yelled, kill him. Another supporter said, this is why I love cheering for Ikas. It turns out that the black guy was called Challenger, and the white guy was Ikas, a very good fighter. Now Zed, watching the fight, thought to himself that he had expected this to be just some low-life brawl, but the level was actually better than he had anticipated. Meanwhile, Rui was scared and trembling, unsure of where to look. He told Zed they should get out of here immediately. This place was terrifying. Back to the fight, Ikas sprinted toward Challenger and delivered a devastating punch to his face, shattering his frontal lobe. Blood spilled from Challenger's nose as he collapsed to the ground. But Ikas didn't let up. He continued throwing multiple punches at Challenger, who was already down. Seeing this, Rui called out to Zed, asking if he had just seen what happened. Killing someone here is nothing to them, he exclaimed. It's not even certain they can win any fight here. But as Rui spoke, he suddenly felt as if he was talking to himself. He looked beside him, and saw that Zed had already disappeared. Suddenly, the entire crowd fell silent, their eyes wide with surprise and awe. They were looking at the stage, not because of Ikas beating Challenger to death, but because Zed had climbed onto the stage. Zed grabbed Ikas' hand and firmly told him to stop. The Challenger is already unconscious. Can't you see that? There's no need to go any further by killing him. Seeing Zed on stage, Rui yelled in shock. What the hell? Why the hell is he climbing up there? Is he insane? But Zed wasn't bothered. He turned to the referee. Aren't you the referee? Did someone bribe you? The match is already decided. Why is he still letting it continue? Does someone have to die before he stopped the match? At that moment, Ikas became furious. He was enraged that Zed had stopped him from killing the other guy. He glared at Zed and asked, "What the hell are you?" But then, Ikas hesitated. If this little boy turned out to be a noble, things could get messy. Zed smirked. Isn't it obvious just by looking? The whole crowd gasped. They thought they were in deep trouble. Perhaps they had attacked a noble. But Zed chuckled. I'm just a street rat, just another beggar from the slums. The entire crowd erupted in disbelief. What the hell? That bastard is really just a filthy beggar? Damn it. They thought he was from noble land. They got scared for nothing. Zed said that they're all so noisy. He then assured them that he'll take responsibility. Since all he have to do is fight the huge guy, then he'll do it. With a confident smile, he added, they should look forward to it. He'll show them something fun. But Rui quickly yelled, Zed, what the hell are you doing? How many times do I have to tell you? Ikas is the strongest one here. Even if by some miracle, he had a 1 in 1,000 chance of winning. Even if all the gods in the world and the goddess of luck were on Zed's side, this fight is impossible to win. But Zed was like, shut up and bet everything you have on me. Rui yelled and asked if Zed was even listening. Was he seriously doing this? He told Zed to get down from the stage immediately before it was too late. Now, with a serious tone, Zed told Rui that after this, they should go and eat some meat. Just then, the referee announced that the match was starting, and Zed stood facing Ikas, the strongest fighter in the arena. Seeing the little boy, Ikas said that if a beggar was going to go crazy, he should at least do it with some dignity. But now, analyzing Zed's body, he said to himself that it was interesting. This little boy looked like he was barely 15, but those eyes. His breathing was steady and completely controlled. But the most unusual thing was his stance. It was completely different from the others. It is both threatening and stable. He wondered, what was this feeling he was having right now? Was he nervous against this damn beggar? He yelled, no, it's impossible for him to be nervous against this worthless kid. With anger, he sprinted towards Zed with all his might, hoping he would take him down with a single punch. And just as he was about to land the punch, Zed gave him a punch to the face that sent him flying. Seeing this, Ikas was surprised. He was like, what the hell just happened? Blood was already coming out of his nose. Zed was now giving Ikas advice and said, never pull your fists all the way back behind your shoulder when fighting. He gave Ikas another punch and said, a punch should come straight from good stance, in the fastest and most direct line to your opponent's face, light and precise. He kept on giving multiple punches as he lectured the huge guy, not even letting him breathe. And with a loud bang, he gave Ikas a deafening punch that shattered his teeth and frontal lobe. Seeing this, the whole crowd were stunned. How the hell is that little boy winning against Ikas? Meanwhile, Rui was praying for Zed as he closed his eyes before the fight even started. He was like, God of war, goddess of fortune, deity of miracles, mother of life. Please just make Zed make it out alive. He couldn't even open his eyes to see the fight because he believed Zed would have turned into minced meat by now. But suddenly, he heard the crowd murmuring, and they were yelling that Ikas was losing. He decided to peep to see what was going on. As he began opening his eyes gradually, just then, he could see that Zed was already beating the huge guy black and blue. He exclaimed, what the hell is going on? Is Zed actually winning against the strongest fighter in the arena? How is he beating Ikas? Now back on the stage, Ikas couldn't even understand what was hitting him. He could only feel his dignity sleeping away, from every punch coming from Zed. He wondered, what the hell is this? His vision was already blurry by now, but he could still see that he was losing against this little boy. In anger, he tried to throw a punch, but Zed dodged it, and Zed was like, does he really think those pathetic punches could hit him? He gave Ikas another punch to the jaw, and blood came pouring out. The audience began yelling, no way! They yelled that Ikas should get his head straight. How is he losing to this little boy? And with a loud bang, Zed gave Ikas a finishing punch that sent him flying to the ground. With this final punch, there was no doubt that Ikas would definitely enter a coma. As Ikas lay on the ground, lifeless but still breathing, the whole arena went silent. No one could believe what happened. Even the referee was stunned. Zed then turned to the referee and said, what are you doing? Should I go all out too by killing Ikas? Shouldn't you announce the victor at this point? But just then, the referee looked at a figure amongst the crowd. He waited for a signal on what to do next. After the figure signaled the referee to go on, the ref finally declared Zed as the winner. Meanwhile, Zed just laughed inwardly and said, the fight ended before he even had the time to warm up. Maybe he should have held back even more. Sometime later after the fight and everything ended, Zed got the money he won from the bet. Since it was only Rui who bet on him and no one else because they thought he would lose. But the pay was so small. Zed asked the cashier, are you kidding me? The payout was 62 times, so why is this all he got? It's too small for the amount he was expecting from the bet. He asked the cashier if she was scamming him just because he looked young. Did she think he couldn't do basic math? The cashier replied, that's impossible. She gave him the exact amount. Zed remarked, there's no way it's this low. He was expecting more. But suddenly he called out to Rui and asked him. However, Rui was already sweating. Zed then asked Rui how much he had bet, because if he had bet higher, the payout would have been higher. He thought he had told Rui to bet everything he had on him, but it seemed like Rui had only bet 1 gold coin. That was why the payout wasn't much. Rui stammered and said, I told you I hate gambling. He had to save something for their dinner tonight. He wasn't sure Zed would win, so he couldn't gamble all the money. Just then, a lady walked up to them as they were having their little argument. She greeted them with a smile and said, hello there. She came with bodyguards as huge as buffaloes. Don't get me wrong, I mean, they have the power to turn to buffaloes. She smiled and asked Zed, can we have a little chat? Seeing her, Zed said to himself, this must be the lady the referee from earlier was looking at. He then asked her, who are you supposed to be? With a smile, she said, oh, he don't recognize her? That must mean this is his first time here. She introduced herself, I'm the manager of this arena. My name is Henna. She said she would like to speak with him, if he could spare some time. But Zed quickly said he's not interested, and began walking away. As they were walking, Rui thought to himself, so that is Henna, one of the most powerful people in this village. But as they were leaving, the two bodyguards confronted Zed, blocking his path. Zed looked up at them. Although they were tall, he asked, do both of you want to end up like Ikas from the previous fight, or should he make sure they get a nice long nap for a few days? But the two bodyguards didn't budge. They stood like dummies, not even flinching. Zed wondered if they were just that loyal to the manager or what. Just then, Henna spoke up. The fighter he defeated today, Ikas, was a champion she personally scouted from the big cities. She's sure he understands what she's trying to say. She then added, she'll let him go for today, but they will definitely meet again. Next time, she hoped they can talk in a more comfortable setting. She said she really likes strong people like Zed. But Zed gave no reply and simply walked away. Later, they arrived at a nearby restaurant, waiting for their food to be served. Rui sighed and said, he's really starving. Then, with a more serious tone, he told Zed that he mustn't get on that woman's bad side. On the surface, Henna is merely the arena manager. But in truth, she is the hidden power behind the city. As long as they're here, crossing paths with her is inevitable. But Zed said that to him. She just looks like an old fox obsessed with money. Rui nodded. Yes, he's right. That's actually her nickname. The old fox. Zed then said to himself, she must have approached him with ulterior motives, aiming to use him for her own gain. He continued, it was the same when he first stepped into the world of combat sports. The moment he started making a name for himself, all sorts of management agencies came knocking on his door, or most of them saw his talent as nothing more than a tool for profit. He even got scammed multiple times. Back then, he was just a naive kid from the countryside, brimming with dreams. But then, meeting his current manager was a stroke of luck. After all, it was thanks to his manager that he became a champion. But nevertheless, he knew he was no longer that clueless country boy, easy prey for opportunists. He was a fighter who had endured countless battles and clawed his way to the top. He was known as the champion of two worlds. He then said, so, if Henna is an old fox, or whoever she is, we shall see who the real master of the game is. Just then, the waiter approached them and said, their order is ready, 1 serving of beef has arrived. Seeing this, Rui exclaimed, wow, vertigrade beef, just like the one they had as their final meal back in prison. Just as Rui was salivating and about to eat the meat, Zed told him to hold on a second. Rui asked what was wrong, but Zed told him that this was a fake. This is not the original vertigrade beef. The color and marbling are completely off. Rui was like, what? How is it fake? And what the hell is marbling? He quickly dropped his fork and remarked, now that he think about it, something doesn't add up. Even the warden back at the detention center needed a whole week to get his hands on vertigrade beef. Zed replied, yes, if it were readily available in the next city, there's no way it would have taken that long for them to get it. And besides, vertigrade beef is incredibly rare, isn't it? So there's no way they could serve such beef to this many customers. Zed continued, this is probably a lower grade beef, likely a wagey grade beef. It's only a single tier below, but the difference is staggering. And it's not even just the fact that the beef is fake. They're selling random beef at the price of vertigrade beef, which is unfair. Rui said, really? But whether it's wagey grade or vertigrade, doesn't it all taste the same once it's in your mouth? He's way too hungry to care about what type of beef it is. Zed replied, still, paying for vertigrade and getting a fake? That's a scam. Customers have rights. Not to mention, we're broke, remember? Just then, the waiter approached them and said, excuse me. He pointed out that they had been lingering for a while. Would they mind eating quickly and leaving? The waiter added that they had only ordered 1 serving, yet were taking up space and wasting time. But Zed couldn't agree. He said that the food isn't what he ordered. He specifically asked for vertigrade beef. Shouldn't they be bringing him the real meal first before sending them out? The waiter scoffed. Huh? Do you even know where you are? That kind of nonsense might work out on the streets, but not here. But Zed told him, save it. The waiter snapped. This little punk got no fear, huh? With a smile, Zed said, oh, if that's the case, should he go ahead and run his mouth as much as he want? So the rest of the customers will hear that what they've been eating isn't the real vertigrade beef. The other customers started noticing the commotion and wondered if Zed was fighting with the waiter. This would be bad for business, so the waiter told Zed to shut up and follow him immediately. Sometime later, the waiter took them to his boss, and Zed was surprised by what he saw. The boss was a very hefty man. 2 buffalo wouldn't match his size. Alongside him stood his warriors holding knives. The boss was like, so you're the punk-ass brats causing trouble in my restaurant, right? Zed replied, punk-ass? Says the guy selling counterfeit meats. The boss laughed out loud and said he, gotta love that cocky attitude coming from a little kid, but he should really learn how to read the room. Right now, he's in the presence of danger, and he should be scared. But Zed said that he don't care about reading the room. What he do care about is how blind the boss is to the situation. Zed told him, if you pick a fight with me, which one of us do you think will end up dead? Hearing this, the boss snapped and ordered his fighters to attack him. Just as the hefty men were about to attack, Zed dodged the punch and struck back. He kept using the hefty men as punching bags. They were too big to throw fast punches. Another guy tried to stop him, but Zed caught his hand and swung him to the ground with a loud bang. At first the boss was smiling, thinking his men would beat Zed to a pulp, but suddenly his expression changed when he saw that Zed had the advantage and was defeating them. A while later, Zed had already defeated all the hefty men, leaving them with bruises on their hands and bodies as they lay on the ground, yelling in pain. Rui said, "Serves you right, you bastards. Do you even know who Zed is?" He told them, "This is the guy who took down Ikas with his bare hands." Upon hearing this, the boss was like, "Damn it." He heard rumors that Ikas, the strongest fighter in the arena, got beaten by some nobody and he laughed it off. So it was true that this little guy defeated Ikas. Now he realized that Zed was not just some weakling. He then said, "All right, what do you want from me?" Zed replied, "Now we are speaking the same language." All he asked for was fair compensation, and since he's a reasonable man after all, he wouldn't ask for much. He then said that he had 2 conditions. First, the boss should return the money he took from them. And second, from now on, their restaurant would cover the cost of every beef meal they eat here. At the price of verdigrade beef, of course. Hearing this, the boss was like, "Damn it. At verdigrade prices? Isn't that too much? What kind of extortionist punks are they to request that?" But finally, he complied. Sometime later, it was nighttime. Zed and Rui found a place to stay for the night. As Rui laid on the bed, he exclaimed that he had never slept on a bed this soft before. "This is absolute heaven." He then asked Zed. By the way, that was impressive back then. As expected from a noble, he really used his customer rights well. Zed said, "Well, if the rumors spread the wrong way, the restaurant would have been done for. So that was why they accepted his conditions. For someone with no cards left to play, the negotiation table becomes hell." Rui laughed at that and said he had never seen someone's face turn that red before. Back then, the boss was very angry, but he couldn't vent his anger as he was accepting Zed's conditions. Rui then said, "Either way, thanks. We're living like kings now." But Zed told him, "Enough talk. They should get some sleep for now." Sometime later, as they were both sleeping, Rui opened his eyes and quickly sat up. He whispered Zed's name to see if he was still asleep or not. When Zed didn't reply, Rui stood up and began to leave the room. But Zed wasn't sleeping. He could sense Rui leaving the room. A few days later, in the lodge where they were staying, Rui groaned. "I'm starving. When are we eating?" Zed, busy doing push-ups, didn't immediately reply. Rui noted that Zed never stopped training, not even for a second. "Aren't mages supposed to hate sweating more than death itself?" Rui muttered. Suddenly a thought struck. "Wait, don't tell me you're working out because you have no mana?" Zed replied, "Yes." Rui was surprised. He thought Zed had mana within him all this time. But the truth was, the penalty applied to Zed was restricting his mana. As Zed checked his system status, which only he could see, he muttered to himself. No matter how many times he checked his status window each day, nothing changed. His mana refused to increase. At this point, he was starting to wonder if he was cursed. He felt it was probably because going from 0 to 1 was like creating something from nothing, and that first step was the hardest. But Zed believed that once he broke through, it would be easier. Right now, he was just clinging to hope. Zed then told Rui, "Morning training is over. They should get something to eat." Rui asked, "Where should they go today? Potato salad or chicken stew?" But Zed said, "Nah, they should go for some beef. It's been a while." With glee, Rui was like, "Oh, finally, they're eating something nice today." As they walked through the streets, Zed thought to himself, they hadn't gone back to the steakhouse for 3 days. The reason was simple. Even extortion had its limits, and they didn't want to push their luck. More importantly, they had already devoured 10 servings on the first day, so money wasn't an issue. Zed then asked Rui how much gold do they have left. Rui replied, "Not much. Prices in this city are insane." Zed sighed. "All right, you understand." But in his mind he thought, he've played this game for 10 years. There's no way he don't know the market rates in the city. For Rui to burn through 50 gold coins in just a few days, he would have to throw money away to make that happen. Zed then thought, this guy must think I'm just some clueless noble who doesn't understand how the world works. What the hell is Rui hiding? Simple greed? Gambling addiction? But Rui didn't seem like he was planning to betray him. So for now, Zed decided to turn a blind eye to Rui skimming off the top, but he knew he couldn't ignore it forever at least. Not until he understood why Rui was spending so much. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, one of the fighters told the boss, "They're back." The boss, who still felt humiliated by Zed back then, clenched his fists. To think he suffered such humiliation at the hands of a mere brat. "He'll make them pay this time around," he growled. He then ordered the fighter, "Prepare the plan. They're taking him down." Sometime later, after Zed and Rui entered the restaurant, they were served a banquet of meats, steaks, and various delicacies. The waiter bowed and said, "They've prepared plenty of meats. Please enjoy to your heart's content." Seeing this, Rui was surprised. "Just how much is all this worth?" The waiter added, "If you need anything else, don't hesitate to call." Zed narrowed his eyes. Why are they suddenly being so nice? Rui, on the other hand, shrugged. "Maybe it's because we changed clothes?" Zed replied, "No, that's ridiculous." He then said to himself that he had scanned the place when they walked in. No sign of assassins, the restaurant looked the same as before. What the hell are they up to? Everything seemed suspicious. For them to be this welcoming, something was wrong. Just then, Rui wrapped some meatloaf and vegetables and handed it to Zed. "Aren't you hungry?" He told Zed to eat everything in one bite. Zed took the food from his hand and thanked him. But just as he was about to eat it, a thought struck his mind. His eyes widened. He quickly yelled, "Rui, spit the food out immediately, don't eat the meat." Zed told Rui the food was poisoned, and Rui immediately began spitting it out. Fear crept into Rui's voice as he asked if he was going to die, but Zed reassured him that such a small amount of poison wouldn't be lethal. With a serious expression, Zed checked his system. So that was the boss's plan. How dare he coat the meat with poison? He muttered to himself, if he didn't have the absolute poison immunity trait, he would have been killed without anyone noticing. But thank God for this skill. All the suffering he endured to obtain this trait was worth it. Zed has almost died a few times in the process, consuming every poison in the Empire in order of rank and repeatedly using antidotes to cure himself. Rui hesitated before asking, but the food had no taste or smell. Was it really poisoned? How did he even know? Zed smirked and said, it's because he's an Arahant. Rui's eyes widened in awe. Wow. As expected, allied nobles really are on another level. But what should they do now? The boss is trying to kill them. Shouldn't they run? Zed simply smiled. Why should they run? He'll make them pay dearly. Zed then requested for the boss. Later, the boss entered the dining room, scoffing as he saw them still there. He said to himself that these extortionist punks are still hanging around. They should have just quietly eaten the meat instead of acting all high and mighty. He turned to Zed. What do you want? Zed leaned back and said he called him here to clear up some misunderstandings. There are a few things he want to ask. The boss's eyes flicked to the empty plates on the table. He smirked, thinking, they must have stuffed themselves. If they ate that much of the poison, the effects should kick in soon. The boss sneered. Misunderstanding? He said that 2 of them are thugs who threaten people and steal their money. Zed replied, no, you've got it all wrong. Rui then wrapped up some meatloaf and handed it to the boss. The boss frowned. Why is he giving that to him? Zed replied that it's a gesture of reconciliation. If the boss accepts it, he'll remove the second condition from last time. It's not like they're real bandits or anything. The boss scoffed. Fine. But he have no intention of making peace with bastards like them, and he won't take the meat. Zed's smile didn't waver. He said that's strange. Does he actually want to keep getting extorted? Or does he have another reason for not eating the meat? Like, if it was poisoned. The boss's face twisted in anger. What nonsense. How dare Zed accuse him? But Zed wasn't buying it. He slammed his hand on the table, and all the poisoned meat hidden underneath tumbled to the floor. The boss's eyes widened in shock. He had assumed they ate everything. Had Zed realized the food was poisoned? Zed stepped closer and asked, why did he poison the meat? The boss tried to deny it, slamming his hand against the door. Didn't he already say there was no poison? Where's the proof? But Zed's aura changed in an instant. He said, of course, he have proof. His eyes shifted from blue to a piercing red. The boss staggered back in disbelief. Those eyes. You're an Arahant? Zed replied, yes. And you dared try to deceive one. You'll pay for it with your life. The boss fell to the ground, trembling. He had never imagined he was dealing with an Arahant. Panic took hold, and he let out a nervous laugh. Damn. He's really going to die at this rate. He dropped to his knees, bowing desperately. He failed to recognize such a great noble standing before him. He begged Zed to forgive him, just this once. But the thing is, why would a Western Arahant come all the way to the rural part of the South? Why didn't he reveal his identity from the start? And why did he act like a lowly wanderer? But the boss was so consumed by fear that he couldn't even form these natural doubts. He didn't notice that Zed was a fake. He kept on begging Zed, pleading just once, just this once. He begged for forgiveness, swearing that if Zed forgave him, he would do anything he asked. Zed just watched as the boss, crying like a child, begged for mercy. Once again, he realized the overwhelming power an Arahant held. This was serious authority, and Zed told himself that he would use this power more often. He reminded the boss of his own words, that he would do anything. He then said, all right, since he see the boss' sincerity, he'll grant him mercy just this once. The boss fell to his knees, thanking him repeatedly, saying he would never forget this grace. Zed then gave his first order. He must never reveal his identity to anyone. Of course, the boss swore. Until the nails are hammered into his coffin, even in the afterlife, he won't breathe a word about Zed's true identity. Zed nodded, then gave his second demand. He told the boss to hand over half of his wealth, and he'll pretend today never happened. The boss quickly agreed. Understood. He'll give Zed half of his wealth right now. He rushed off, thinking to himself that he needed to hand over the money as fast as possible before Zed changed his mind and killed him. Rui, who had been watching, finally spoke. As expected of an Arahant. The power is tremendous. Zed turned to him. Once they get the money, they will leave the city tonight. Rui nodded. All right, good idea. But suddenly, a female figure walked into the room asking, where are they off to in such a hurry? They turned to see Herna, the gang leader. A sinister grin spread across her lips. Oh? We meet again, Zed. She said he turned out to be quite an impressive person. Zed's mind raced. Could it be that Herna knew he was an Arahant? Did that bastard boss reveal his identity in such a short time? No, that should be impossible. The boss was genuinely terrified and had sworn an oath of secrecy. The only place Herna could have learned the truth was the prison they had just escaped from. If the boss found out he was just a fake Arahant, Zed would lose the money. He needed to change locations immediately. He looked at Herna and said they should talk privately. She replied, all right. A while later, they sat in a secluded restaurant. Zed leaned forward and asked her why she came. Does she have business with him? Herna chuckled. Oh, it seems like he's misunderstanding something. It's not that she don't have business with him, but today, she's here to meet her client. Zed was surprised. He turned to Rui, who looked downcast. Rui finally admitted that he's the client. He apologized, saying that he didn't mean to hide it, but he had no choice. Herna leaned back and told him that she've looked into what Rui requested, but she'll need more money. Rui snapped. What? That wasn't the deal. Does she know how much he already paid her? She smirked. The amount he paid barely covers her daily meal expenses. She remarked that finding a missing sibling isn't an easy task. Rui trembled, tears welling in his eyes. How could this be? This was his last hope. Zed sighed, finally understanding why Rui had been sneaking out at midnight. So, he had been looking for his missing sibling all along. Zed turned to Herna and said they should make a deal. Herna raised an eyebrow. Oh, a deal? Zed nodded. You said you also had business with me. Tie Rui's request to your request. Herna smirked. Oh, so if she grant Rui's request, Zed will accept hers as well? She nodded. Sounds good. As for her request, she told Zed to fight Ikas one more time, that's all. Rui's eyes widened. Zed, this is obviously a trap. Don't go back to fight Ikas. They must have set something up. But Zed simply said, fine, he'll accept the rematch. In return, she must proceed with Rui's request, without asking for any more money. Herna laughed. Of course. She always keep her promises. Sometime later, after collecting half of the boss's wealth, Zed and Rui were heading back to their lodgings. As they walked, Zed noticed Rui looking downcast. He asked Rui, what's wrong? They just made a lot of money. Shouldn't he be happy? Rui hesitated, then said that he's sorry. He never intended to deceive Zed from the start. Zed smirked. He knew about it from the beginning. Upon hearing this, Rui was shocked. He knew all this time? Zed nodded. But he only found out today that Rui went to Herna, though. Rui then asked, why did he pretend like he didn't know? Aiden replied, it's because he didn't care. He figured the help Rui gave him was worth at least that much. But from now on, he told Rui not to hide anything from him. The worst thing in this world is repaying trust with betrayal. No matter how rough his background is, don't live like trash. Rui clenched his fists and said, he understand, he'll remember that. Rui then told Zed not to fight Ikas, it's a trap. They should just take the money and run as planned. Zed turned to him and asked, what about his sibling? Rui replied that woman is going to stab them in the back again. She won't keep her promise. Although Rui wasn't foolish enough to be scammed by someone like Herna, his desperation had still led him to her. And Herna was the kind of person who preyed on desperate people. Zed sighed and said, he was originally planning to leave the city, but he changed his mind. Rui's eyes widened. Wait, is he really going for the rematch? Zed nodded. Yeah, he trusts his own skills, and this time Herna is throwing everything she's got at him. That's exactly why he want to fight even more. When he see trash like her, he want to clean it up, and defeating an opponent who's giving their all is the most exhilarating feeling ever. Meanwhile, back at the Carrion Detention Center, chaos erupted. Soldiers and guards were running in all directions. The head of the guards approached the warden and told him that all personnel have been assembled. The warden nodded grimly. Good. They should move out immediately, starting with the vanguard. He slammed his hand on the table, eyes burning with rage. Those bastards. They were right under his noses all along. This time he will make sure to put an end to them. Especially Zed Arahant.